This is by far the best official version of Jazz we have seen, especially in the Generations line. They have really nailed the robot mode. All the iconic details are there that you'd expect from a Jazz robot mode, including the fantastic face and head sculpt, all present and correct, the iconic blue visor, that classic Jazz expression, the Autobot logo there on the chest, as well as all the details picked out where they need to be with blue and silver paint. Of course, you do get the classic Jazz crotch piece there, all decked out in his blue and black. There's loads of detail going on here in the legs, and the silver picked out, again a classic iconic Jazz staple, is there present and correct. Robot mode silhouette, it is done fantastically. There is no issue with kibble. That backpack sits nice and flush, and yes, it is mistransformed when you get him out of the box, but once out of the box and you complete that step, it gives you the classic robot look for Jazz. To accessories, Jazz only really comes with one, and that is his silver blaster, with curiously additional ports there, but I'll get to that later on. Particularly they come in handy in the alt mode. When it comes to articulation, Jazz's head is on a ball joint, so it's a full 360 there, as you'd expect. You do get a shoulder joint, you do get a bicep cut, and of course the arm can do a full 360. There's a single bend at the elbow, and the wrist can move in due to transformation. There is a waist twist there, it can do a full 360, but of course the backpack there for Jazz is unfortunately stopping that from happening. The legs can do all the motions that you would expect, and there is even a thigh swivel. You do get a strange bend at the knee, but that is due to transformation, and you can lock it in if you wish. And you do of course get an ankle rocker. As you would expect, that's pretty much standard articulation levels for figures of this size and price point, but there is more than enough for that figure photography need. Change of the camera angle just to show off the transformation a bit more easier. Now the transformation itself is dead simple and fun. The only thing I would say you have to be careful about is the backpack section, because it is all just clear plastic. Now you just pop the fists into the gap there, as you'd seen. This bit can be a bit tricky for tolerance and clearance, as you're having to push the head in, so you do have to be quite careful how you're doing that. Just make sure every sort of section is supported and the head will click in. Now how you do the next part really is entirely up to yourself, because this silver piece needs to swivel around. So what I do is this, because the whole unit sort of swivels together, and then I'll just hold it there and twist it around like that, and then just adjust until everything is sort of flush. There's a bit of resistance in that there, so it's something to be wary of when you're transforming the figure. Now, and this bit just flips up, and everything will click into place once we get everything set up there. Is we're just going to move in this part here, so the wheels, and we want the tab on the outside, so sitting like that, so the tab's sticking out as they're going to plug into the windows. And if you don't do that, the transformation won't sit flush, so you have to just get everything just right on that joint to make sure everything is nice and smooth. Now this is a part that makes me worry a little bit. It's opening up the doors. Again, because it is all clear plastic, it's something to be careful with. Just support it as best you can when it comes to this transformation. The legs are fairly straightforward. You're just flipping down the feet, and the wheels just turn like so, fairly straightforward, and you're just bending the legs up. Say, nice easy transformation. I thought they would tab in at the legs, but they just tab in at the spoiler there. And again, this is it's a bit of a concern, because you've got the plastic tabs that tab into the holes here. You've just got to do it very carefully, because of it being that clear plastic. Now, once that's in, all we do is tab and port, and we're just tabbing that in like so, and then doing the same again. And you do need to adjust a few things here because you can see it's not quite flush, so I do have to take that out again just to make sure everything sits as it should, and there we go. And like I say, things will pop out, it's usual typical tab tolerance, but with a few adjustments you'll get Jazz into his alt mode. And the alt mode is amazing, it cannot be understated. This is definitely as close as we are going to get to the classic Porsche Jazz G1 alt mode, and come on, it's very close. It's just like the classic Porsche with a few mods, and it's done really well. Yeah, we've got that 14 there instead of the 4, but that's been going on now for such a long time with Jazz figures. All the detail comes out, the classic go faster stripes are there. Yeah, looking on camera there's definitely a contrast in whites, like there and there, but it's not as bad in person when you have the figure in hand. I do love how they've decoed the silver rims on the tyres, that's a nice touch. That peg issue really doesn't bother me personally, but I know it does bother other people. And for weapon storage, it does recommend that you tab the gun in here if you wish, but because of that clear plastic all around the hood of the car, I really don't want to do that. What you can do as well is you've got two holes in there and you've got these little bits here, so I'll typically just tab it in like so. Yeah, it's, you know, it does make the car mode look a bit more uglier, absolutely, but it's a safer way to store the weapon if you want the weapon on Jazz's person. And of course, because this is a Studio Series release, we do get a wonderful diorama, and the diorama that comes with Jazz is the Moonbase 2 diorama, and it looks lovely, almost like an animation cell has been printed on a bit of cardboard, and you can of course add the figure, be it in alt mode or robot mode, to this diorama, and works really well. I definitely would like to get the rest of the Studio Series and just have a big massive diorama somewhere, but I don't have the space. I absolutely recommend this version of Jazz. This is the definitive version of Jazz we have seen in the Generations line. It captures that iconic Generation 1 and 86 movie design perfectly, and that's what I want, and that's what this line does deliver. All the details you would expect are there for the Jazz design, the paint is where it needs to be, and the robot mode is fantastic. The alt mode as well captures that classic Porsche look, and it does it just enough so you can understand it is Jazz's alt mode, but not enough to cause a copyright for Porsche. Issues I have with my copy of Jazz, it's really those tabs on the legs. They do keep popping off, but it's a minor issue and really doesn't hamper the playability or fun that you have with this figure. That plastic backpack though, and the main component of the windshield and roof of the alt mode is a bit of a concern, and will unfortunately stop me from transforming him as much as I would like to when it comes to my Transformers. Overall though, this figure not only will fit in with the rest of the Studio Series 86 line, but also your Generations line just perfectly, especially with the recent War for Cybertron trilogy. A 100% recommend from me. Little bit loose, as you're going to need to push the head section down, and as you can see I've pushed it right off.